Let's talk about that because that's something that I preach. We obviously have a lot of freelancers on the Free Up platform, and getting in the mentality of looking at yourself as a business and not just working for someone else in a remote job is usually the first step to having more success and really scaling. Where do you see people failing, and how do you get people into that mentality?
Well, the way I see people failing, especially if they're freelancers, is they end up doing all these different gigs for different clients that are totally different from each other. So they do a little bit of SEO, a little bit of Google Ads, a little bit of this, that, and the other thing, and they end up filling in positions in people's companies instead of building their own process and a single service that they deliver in like a factory environment. So they, instead of doing creating a process, creating a business, they end up doing a bunch of different projects that are unrelated to each other. So they are essentially running 3 or 4 different tiny little businesses. And at the same time, they're not building any assets for themselves. So they're building someone else's business. They're not building their own business. They're building someone else's email list, but they're not building their own email list. They're building someone else's, wealth. And for themselves, they're not really getting that much in return. They're getting an hourly rate usually. So if you want to get out of that, you need to learn several new skills, right? So you need to learn how to create these processes. You need to learn how to close sales properly so that you're not running from projects that you don't really want to do to another project that you don't really want to do, to actually choosing your clients, choosing who you work with, and be an absolute expert. So creating a business that's an absolute top of the line in delivering a certain type of result to a certain type of client. And this doing everything for everyone versus being, the go-to business for a certain type of solution, those are two very, very different things that are run in very, very different ways.
So let's talk about building your own processes, because I think that's where a lot of freelancers struggle. They're always looking to do things the way that the client wants it. And you talked a little bit about niching down. How does someone go about creating processes for their freelance business?
Okay, so first of all, build up some skill level by freelancing. Okay, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of freelancing. Do that for a while and have 10, 20 clients over a year, maybe a year and a half, and then go back and look at your best performing clients, look at the clients that did better than most and that you liked working with the most and that referred you to most business and that didn't require babysitting. And then drop all the other clients that are kind of wasting your time, not getting results and so on, and focus only on that 20% that are the best clients, that are the clients you actually want to work with. Once you have that, once you've niched down, then the real fun can begin. Then you can start giving away parts of the processes that you're running. So you're doing things every day. You're doing lead generation, you're doing sales calls, you're doing delivery, all kinds of stuff, client management. Start with the easiest skills first, or rather the easiest processes first. Let's say lead generation, give that away to a VA, go hire one. They're not that expensive. And once you have VA doing lead generation, for example, presto, you suddenly have 5 to 10 hours extra per week to work on your business instead of being a lead generation employee in your own business, right? So you outsource that for $5 to $15 an hour. Suddenly you have a bunch of time, right? Then you outsource the next thing. Let's say it's delivery. Let's say you're running a Facebook ads agency. What can you do to outsource delivery? How can you find experts that are doing Facebook? Well, you give them 30% of the project fee and you say, you are in charge of delivery here. Okay, for this, you need to be able to charge a lot of money, obviously. If 30% is barely any money, no one good is going to want to work with you. So once you have that figured out, you have lead generation and you have delivery outsourced. You have a tiny little team, like 2 people working for you that are doing those 2 things. Suddenly you have 25 hours a week extra to spend on your business instead of being an employee in your own business. Then you go and do the same thing with client management and eventually even with sales. So what are you doing then once you have those 4 or 5 things, once they're handled by virtual assistants or staff on location? What do you do with your time? You're building your business. And you're not running around extinguishing fires all the time. You're overseeing and you're managing a process that works and you're improving that process. But most of your time is spent on creating new processes, new funnels, scaling, all the cool, fun stuff that gets people from doing $5,000 per month as a freelancer to $50K and above as a business owner. So that's like the super fast summary of how to do it.
I love it. And I love the process. And we actually have a lot of freelancers on the FreeUp platform that are also clients of the FreeUp platform. And they're hiring virtual assistants for lead generation or to handle certain parts of their business. They're obviously upfront and transparent with the client if they're going to be outsourcing anything. But we encourage people to kind of make that transition from a freelancer to agency, assuming the clients are good with it and they are being transparent. Let's talk about pricing. How does someone go about pricing themselves accordingly? And talk about both, let's say, someone who's just getting into freelancing for the first time, how do they figure out their prices, opposed to someone who's really becoming a specialist and an expert?